back into game is that when you look at the idea of, well, is Sombra going to be played all the time? I will say, at least on the North American side, when teams have been scrimming, teams note that she is more powerful, she is more viable. Annoying is how one player said it, but she's not going to be picked every single map. It's not going to be this case of so overpowered you always see her, or at least that's what players are giving us. But Jamerson, as we look here, we got last night's leftovers v Grizzlies. What are we seeing here on the last night leftovers side?
Yeah, already we're seeing a stylistic difference, it looks like. If they go through with these picks between the last night's leftovers and the Grizzlies, the last night's leftovers, though, already hovering over what looks to be a dive composition. Typical, we'll see Kefster swapping off onto that Tracer, so it's going to be a Tracer Genji dive. On the opposite end, Grizzlies running a fairly different composition.
Very different indeed. They will be having that core of Winston D.Va, but they're backing up with Theresa and Sombra, so already we get this big disparity between the two teams. Last night's leftovers going to be much more aggressive. Grizzlies going to look to slow play it and make the Sombra work, but now we're looking at this first fight. The Grizzlies trying to move in, and no, it's going to be leftovers diving in first, and they get to Hoon immediately. The early pick will be forcing Grizzlies back a bit.
Yeah, without that support line there, without the healing, they need to back up just a bit now, but still, the fight is going on right now. Ajax might be the next one to get dove on, but Pag did actually miss that rocket jump.
Well, the fight's still on right now. Could be either team's fight. Grizzlies going to move back to point half the way to last night's leftovers right now. And this is the challenge for Spirit. Going to be going in and around on the Pharah, looking for the right opportunity, getting pressured by Genji, not too much trouble, and he goes in onto the point. Meanwhile, Peg taken down, and the leftovers slowly but surely starting to take advantage here. And a big reason is Spirit hasn't been able to find too much.
Yeah, not at all. It's still going back and forth. The point has not been taken quite yet, but now Zapri on this Sombra is able to just force back that Genji reach, makes his way on over to that health pack, and I don't think it was hacked.
Nope, and bear in mind right now, we're still in contest for this first fight. It's 0% to 0% right now. Grizzlies finally, no, not gonna take it. Leftovers coming back in, they drop the Baron to fight, and there's the Blade from Reach. Moving in, takes down 2 of the Dragon Blade, and finally, perhaps this will go the way of the Leftovers, but we're still at 0 to 0.
Yeah, it's a tale as old as time. Blade and Barrier, we've seen it time and again. Here it is, coming to fruition. Reach was able to work that out with Ajax. I mean, with the fight that takes place that long, of course, ultimates are going to be built up, and so to have it to be your Blade and your Sound Barrier is quite fortuitous for the last night's leftovers, already accruing 15% on the board.
All right, Grizzlies going to look to come back in here just one, but as they come in, they drop the barrier after early 2 picks. I'm not even sure they need to use the barrier in this instance, but this is going to be a very quick fight indeed for the Grizzlies. They invest the ultimates, they drop a barrage for good measure. Hey, when you really want the point, Jamerson, you really want the point.
Yeah, the Grizzlies, they did hold on to their ultimates in their first fight there, so when they came back, there was a huge deficit last night leftovers. They, like I had mentioned, committed the Blade, committed the barrier along with that Primal Rage, so they weren't able to stall out this point as much as most teams would like to.
Okay, now we go to the next fight here. Zapri has the EMP, and this is where Sombra is really good. She doesn't get EMP up quite as often now with the changes, but this is where leftovers have to be careful on approach, because Zapri's going to look to dive in, drops the EMP right there, and here's the dive from the Grizzlies. Looking to finish off quickly. D-Cod was already in, and his team couldn't back him up. And as a result, this is looking very good for the Grizzlies in this hold. Oh!
Yeah, we do have that kill onto Graceful here, so they're going to try and re-engage now, but Zapri might have just shut it down with that kill onto Kefster here. So the hack Reach will be able to break the line of sight on that, but you gotta be careful.
The problem here for last night's leftovers is that they're still moving into this point when they had lost people early on, but it's starting to work out. They're starting to turn things back in their favor. It's not a back and forth fight that just lasts forever where you don't grab the point, and it's Grizzlies now trying to buy time. But you got Peg back into the fight, Respawn's coming back in. This, if they do take it, Grizzlies have still bought a lot of time.
Yep, this is what last night's leftovers wanted to do when they had control of the point. They want to be able to stall out these fights, get as much as possible. Grizzlies able to secure 67 before it gets flipped over.
Now we look to the next fight setting up here. Grizzlies with tools to use here, Jamerson. They have both EMP and Valkyrie on deck.
EMP and Valkyrie on deck, indeed. And last time Spirit had his barrage, came up huge with it now. The great thing about having the Spara along with that Sombra is the fact that she can actually get vision for that Sombra, so they go for the EMP, and there it is.
Spirit over the top, dropping the barrage, not gonna get much off. Fried Wiener able to negate most of the defensive matrix. The only pulse bomb didn't really work out too much as well. Now, Grizzlies moving in and right now, it is looking like it is going to go their way. Spirit takes out another 2 over the top.
Yeah, it was just great focus fire coming out from the Grizzlies. Ajax and Dummy falling first, but still they are delaying this for as long as possible. Kevster does fall, and it'll be flipped at 73%.
Very close right now between both teams. Grizzlies able to get back into the driver's seat here. And next fight going to be more by the basics here, Jamerson, but there is an edge to the Grizzlies that can open up with an aggressive sound barrier.
And we've seen them time and again use this sound barrier to get onto the point. Kevster with that tracer will just try and go for the back cap, but oh no, it's right into a hack.
He gets hacked, but there's no follow through. Meanwhile, Spirit over the top finds Dummy early on in this fight. The barrier already being used by leftovers and not able to get too much front early on. Both teams drop the beat, but it's Kevster in the back. Takes down 2 at the pulse bomb. Still a threat. Graceful going to stop him. Meanwhile, we have Spirit just in the air, going to get taken down. We're in overtime right now, but leftovers not going down quietly, going to be retaking in the end.
Last night's leftovers had to commit almost everything into this. Dummy swapped off even onto the Soldier 76 to try and get back to the point quicker. So now they are going to be missing out on that extra healing. Luckily, he does have that biotic field to keep them up, but still, that is a very long cooldown.
The key here is going to be Zappy. Zappy's coming at the EMP. Wants to get as much value here as possible. Drops it directly on the point. Only think he got about 2 here, but it might be enough. Spirit over the top with the barrage. Got in because the Diva was hacked. Takes down 2, and the Grizzlies well on their way to retaking the point and taking this first round.
Yeah, we've seen that before, but here's the blade reach, only able to get Blam before he gets shut down, and with that, the Grizzlies take the first point here on Nepal.
And that's an interesting synergy we saw there towards the very end that you don't see as often in Overwatch, where Sombra and Fair at the same time. But the thing that makes it hard for Fair to get good value off the barrage, generally speaking, when a Diva's around, is that Diva's just gonna fly in your face, eat rockets, make things really rough for you, but you're able to take that ability out. Spirit gets a clean 2. And as a result, the Grizzlies, after a hard-fought battle, able to get the first round.
Yeah, with the prevalence of Diva in our current meta, I mean, that Sombra is incredibly strong. Like you had mentioned, she shuts down that defense matrix, and it helps everybody. It helps Soldier 76 and Faraz alike. It was a little unfortunate that on the side of last night's leftovers, they never really tried to swap off onto anything to try and deal with that bar in the sky. They're not going to actually run it this time, will the Grizzlies.
Well, they're not running any great anti-air option, but they don't have to worry about this time. There is no fire, there is a swap up. Instead, they're going to be focusing on Zappy on the Tracer, where this was his bread and butter for Misfits way back in the day. Curious to see what he does here. He's already done 40% worth of damage here as he's just starting in and around the point. Zappy laying in all sorts of pressure. This is actually pretty good for the Grizzlies. They're backing him a bit, playing the poke game, and now this is the moment where they're going to go forward and seize the initiative, and they take down Decon. It was a combination between Diva and Tracer there, but now both Winstons are out of the fight. It's still Grizzlies on a bit of a winning edge.
Okay, all right, now Zappy on the hunt for his Tracer counterpart now, but she does have that orb to keep her alive for now. Zappy dropping low, has to use that recall, and now he's on to Dummy. Dummy by fault, he does, and now they are coming ahead are the Grizzlies.
Grizzlies keeping the pressure on there. And again, I can't say enough good things about Zappy in the early part, but leftovers still fighting back. And again, Decon out of the fight early as Blam takes down 2. Blam, who has now transitioned to that support role, but if people haven't followed Overwatch, there was a point where he was known as a very good McCree, so his old DPS skills kind of coming into play here.
I mean, we've seen a lot of former DPS players swap and make that transition onto the support role, and they become that much more deadly. Now Grizzlies with first point control over here on Shrine now. They are gonna easily use that sound barrier now. They engage. We're seeing the dive coming out, but it's not really.
Well, they used the barrier early on, and they just focused Decon immediately, over and over again. Decon, the main target, reach them to the back line. Blade out, gets 1, forces him back, ends up getting the Hoon before it's skate away, and is gonna finish off somewhere as well. So a quick strike back here from the leftovers, and the Grizzlies just not able to get the most out of that engage, even after eradicating Decon in the very beginning.
Yeah, Pag sitting at 98% towards that Primal Rage. If he had just been able to get a little bit more damage off, he could have stalled that out for the last night's leftovers, and now, for the Grizzlies. And coming into this fight, Grizzlies don't have much at all. They're going to have to try and go in and force out some ultimates before they go for another engage.
Well, the Grizzlies right now just coming up the left flank, moving in. Hard dive going to be countered by a sound barrier, but they got Dummy before the barrier hit. This means this fight is still winnable for Grizzlies. 5 on 5 right now. The barrier no longer a factor. Both teams reasonable health, but Fried Wiener's going to get debacked here. Grizzlies starting to fight this back. Kevster, pulse bomb at the ready, looking for Winston right now. Drops the pulse bomb, doesn't quite connect, forced out, but but it's going to be enough overall for the leftovers. They end up holding on this fight.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing there. We saw at the tail end of the fight, Kevster actually taking a 2v1 on a hacked health pack up against the Grizzlies, and actually came out the victor in that. Kevster doing a pretty darn good job on this Tracer.
Kevster now going to be looking towards that left side. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies probably going to be coming up the right flank here once more. Zapri, main threat here at the pulse bomb, looking for an early stick. Does he get it? No, not quite. Now, the Grizzlies just sauntering out to the point, ends up pushing out Dummy anyways. They end up with the first pick, and now the Grizzlies working a big advantage, but it strikes right back. 4-on-4 on the point here. Reach under pressure, gonna get forced out. He has a blade, but he can't feel comfortable using it until he gets health. The health pack is hacked. He just can't do anything right now. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies are able to solidify their presence on the point, and Zapri gets to play.
And that is huge, what you had mentioned. The fact that that health pack was hacked. Now Reach, though, will go back in with the blade. He's picked up 2 kills with the dash reset. It's still in favor of last night's leftovers.
Better late than never. He was finally able to get healed up. And note that leftovers have kept control that entire time. Grizzlies could have gotten that a little bit earlier. They do finally get it. But what this means is that we're now on the threshold, Jamerson, where one more good fight for the leftovers could very likely give them the round.
And we've seen both of these teams not afraid to start their engagements off with their support ultimates. So last night, leftovers, as they come in for the retake, they're going to have that Transcendence along with the Pulse Bomb. Last round, Kevster was able to land a good 2-man Pulse Bomb. We'll see if he can recreate that.
Well, here's the thing with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies want to poke for a while here. They're about to have 2 key support ultimates up. They don't want to take the raw fight immediately. However, I don't think they're going to have that ability here. Graceful's going to get deep back to their land. They've lost their tank line immediately. No, Dahoon immediately barriers here. That is a mistake. Leftovers already winning that fight. You don't have a tank line. Your teammates heard the beat, but it's not going to matter. You've lost this fight.
Now, as the point does get flipped, Grizzlies, they're going to be left with that Transcendence, while Ajax will answer in kind on the opposite end with, of course, his sound barrier here. It's going to come down to the timing of these support ultimates, but Pag, in his pocket, he will have that Primal Rage for the Grizzlies.
Blam has to just move in the Transcendence now. They're down Zapri, they're down 1 early. Doesn't matter, not able to get to the point in time even. It's evened up 1-1, so already Jamerson starting out with a close one. And one thing I think is worth noting here is just the disparity, right? Where one team's running Sombra, the other one isn't. And yet we're not seeing the Sombra team always win here. She's just more viable now.
She is definitely more valuable now, but one of the great things about playing against a Sombra, is particularly there on Shrine, is just the fact that you don't have to play by the packs because, well, they're very far away from it. You've got the one out by statue, and then, of course, the 2 inner ones, and you don't have to take the fights there. You just avoid them.
Whoa, this is going to be interesting, where it does happen from time to time, but it's a bold choice. The Grizzlies not going to be coming in here at the Diva, and that could be really rough going up against this Theresa Junkrat set, where the leftovers are going to be very tanky in how they approach this. They're going to have a lot of space control, and now you don't even have Diva to neutralize some of that Junkrat spam. That's going to be difficult indeed.
Indeed, right now, the triple DPS composition coming out from the Grizzlies. They just want to take the fight to them. Poking for now is Graceful. It's forced to translocate out.
And for the leftovers, this is where you bully. You use your shields to fight from a good positioning. They get the early puck off. Now you just move everyone onto a point. Grizzlies cannot fight you man on man right now. They have to look for poking around the outskirts of the comp they're running. And simply put, last night's leftovers, they can just bully them really hard.
And the poke that comes out from the Grizzlies, it's really not enough to deal with that Orisa barrier. You're seeing it just comfortably laying on the point right now. I don't see them actually being able to break it down and force out the cooldowns early enough to capitalize upon the last night's leftovers.
It just feels like the Grizzlies' win condition here is to get a hack on a key person, but even if you hack the Orisa, the shield is still there. You hack the Diva, okay, she's gonna wait a little bit. It's very difficult. Dummy picked up early, immediately brought back up. The Grizzlies, they do a little bit of damage on the outskirts here, but the leftovers, they're not really in danger of losing the point as this happens, and they're okay with the brawl that goes back and forth like that. They're still in firm control of the point.
It was a 3-for-3 exchange right now. D-Cod doesn't quite have the support he needs. He will finally get the healing until he falls. Reach able to answer back against Dahoon. Now Graceful still trying to pick off these targets. He does have, of course, the passive of the Sombra to see targets through the walls. Now he's going in for that EMP. He's looking for it. Will pop it down to make sure he could get that damage onto the Diva.
Well, he drops the EMP there. I don't really think it was needed, though. Grizzlies were already about to take that anyways. Now, instead of having the EMP for the next fight where you can wait for the entire team to come through the door and drop it, not really going to have that opportunity. But, hey, look, they were getting pummeled the entire time. Got to make sure to win a fight, but leftovers in a very good spot.
Grizzlies now, though, for this next defense, they've got that Dragon Blade dummy. If they can just buy some time for on the side of the last night's leftovers, he will have that Transcendence to answer for it.
Spirit blade up in the back right now for the Grizzlies. The tanks moving onto the point. Spirit's waiting. Doesn't pull out the blade here just yet. Doesn't want to throw it in and deal with the Transcendence. He doesn't realize Dummy doesn't have it, but he thinks he does. That's why he's holding on to it and going back right now. So both teams jockeying for position, but look at the bullying here from the leftovers. The tanks are on the point. Kev's in the back of the visor, takes down 3, and the leftovers, again, utilizing the superior tank squad to just do what they want.
There was quite a bit committed by the last night's leftovers. They used the tactical visor along with that turbocharger, excuse me. And so now, Spirit, you know, he did hold on to that blade. Dummy will still be able to answer for it, but we'll see if Pat can get into the backline, try and force it out of Dummy early.
Well, what I'm worried about here is the Riptide. Reach, holding on to the tire. As soon as the Grizzlies commit, he's going to just let that rip and look for the early pickup. They lose Kev, so now it's on Reach. Reach has to come in with the tire right now. Spirit diving to the back of the blade, the tire out from Reach. I'm not sure where it is right now. It might have just gotten killed early on or just didn't connect, as the Grizzlies are making the most of what was a rough situation. They successfully pierce through, and they will retake the point.
Still, they're going to be fighting on a knife's edge here. 95% for last night's leftovers, just 5% away from taking the first map here. North America Contenders. Now the Grizzlies, as they come into this, they will have the EMP. On the side of last night's leftovers, though, they committed almost everything into that last fight.
They committed everything, but they have a buffer. They still have 2 fights to work with here if they move in quickly. Ideal for them here. Let Graceful do what he wants with the EMP. He's going to move in. He's going to EMP most of their team. There it is, but it's fine. Yes, he's instantly deleted Dummy, but you still have another fight. Concede this one, come back in, you still have a good chance.
Yep, just the Zenyatta-seeking missile that is Sombra. Able to get into the back line. You have to remember the EMP does, of course, get rid of the 150 shield that he has, so he instantly melts here. Now, coming down to what could possibly be the last fight. 86% ticking up. Dahoon has the sound barrier for the Grizzlies. Zapri.
Graceful got caught out. He got caught out the last end. He was looking for the poke. He dies early. The barrier ends up coming in. It's still not the worst for the Grizzlies here because they were able to equalize picks, but that could have been a disaster because Graceful is playing just too loosely in the back. Grizzlies now command advantage. Zapri just looking to throw away the last few people on the point. They've been able to fight back from what was a rough beginning versus the tank line. But speaking of tanks, you have Fried Wiener back on the point here with Reach. The leftover is not going out just yet, and Reach, he's built up the blade. Under pressure, doesn't bring it up just yet. Zapri still dancing around. He's going to fall off. Meanwhile, the blade is out from Reach. Finds Graceful looking for more into the back, and the leftovers have retaken this point. And Spirit, you pulled out the blade, you made a mistake. Not the time to use it there, and now the leftovers could very well be winning this round.
The pulse bomb to finish it all off. Kevster with the double elimination at the end as overtime ticks away. It's going to be the last night's leftovers walking away with the first map victory.
My goodness. Back and forth to begin our first matchup here for Contenders. And look, if that's a preview of all the games we're going to be getting all day, not only are we going to be here for a long time, but it's going to be very entertaining Overwatch.
That was super intense because, like, the Grizzlies came out like they were going to throw down, and like last night's leftovers shut them down. They were just like, we're not having that. No.
Yeah, one of the biggest difficulties that we saw there, especially when we went to Sanctum, going for that triple DPS composition, if you're running a solo tank Winston, it is difficult for him to survive without that Diva pair.
Well, the problem is that Overwatch, when you look at Overwatch League, if you just look at the trends in the game over the time, you look at the transformation of the LA Gladiators, right? Tank play wins games. Having control of your battleground wins games, and when you don't run even a Diva, you're conceding a lot of power to the other team. So even when last night's leftovers was outflanked or out-initiated, they still kind of had the general advantage of, well, our baseline play is we throw our bodies onto the point, and the other team has to go, oh God, what do we do?
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the biggest strengths also of the Sombra we talked about is that health pack control. Not a particular map that we see Sombra on often is Nepal, and it's because of the health packs. They are nowhere near where most of the battles take place, especially there on Sanctum. They are so out of the fight. You do have the minis that are kind of close, but still, those are not the minis you want to really rely upon. You want to have a mega health pack controlled for your Winston, for your Diva to be able to survive, but I don't know why they went with the Sombra composition.
Well, I think part of why they went with the Sombra composition is to a degree it's flavor of the month right now, right? Where a hero gets buffed, everyone goes, it's the end of the world, this hero's going to be great. And certainly Sombra is more DPS-esque right now, where she can be more aggressive, she can get more damage done, more pickoffs, but she does get EMP up less often, and I think teams are just feeling out how they want to use a Sombra, and just because she's gone buffed does not mean that she's going to be overpowered.
So you guys had said at the end of that last map, there was really a turning point. It was 99 on both sides, and it seemed like they just rushed in too fast. Is that something that you're worried that you're going to see a lot from with the Grizzlies?
Well, when it's 99 on both sides, what often
you kind of have
happens
to.
is that, yeah, you have to, right? Where you no longer have the luxury. Like, the ideal in controls is that you have a big advantage over the other team in terms of progress. So you go, okay, we're going to casually set up our fight. We don't have to make crazy engagements. But no, it's 99 to 99. It's like, you must go, because otherwise you start getting affiliated with a letter and a number, which everyone is well familiar with.
And in that last fight, I mean, in the heat of the battle, right, we did see the Sombra get caught out there. And I think that was one of the stylistic differences that people are really learning about Sombra now, because you don't build up your EMP by the health that you heal with the hacked health packs. And so you're looking to try and get another ultimate in that panic, in that last fight. He didn't have to be out there. He didn't have to go for the poke.
Well, to your point, too, they also had an advantage there. They had a barrier in reserve. One of the worst things that can happen to you when you have a support ultimate that you want to use in a fight is that someone dies before you get to benefit from that. So instead of Graceful having a barrier up and that being an even bigger advantage, they lost him immediately, and that actually hurt their ability to cleanly win that fight.
We have we have a replay for you. This is from LNL's. They had a really awesome soldier play. It was a triple kill. We'll see if we've got this replay up.
And this is Kevster in the back, where note the front tank line and all the distractions you have up front. Look at all the room Kevster has here, where he can eat lunch, he can get on Twitter, he can get on Instagram. He has all the room in the world, and I just sold out to so many social media things.
Yeah, you did.
For no reason.
And the thing
Sponsored by? No.
Sponsored by InstaFace, Bill Belichick's favorite.
The thing is, yeah, they didn't run a diva on the opposite end, on the Grizzlies side. They ran the Sombra to try and neutralize the diva, but hey, what neutralizes a diva better than not having a diva at all?
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can't argue that. Awesome. So a few things that I guess I'm going to ask. I don't know. People at home are way more into this knowledge that I have. But when people are starting to, we've got map selection up. So they've already chosen. This is going to be Numbani, and we're going to do a hybrid map for it, which is exciting. When it comes down to looking like it's going to be a losing battle, how do you see, do team comps tend to change on the fly with that?
It depends on the team. There's certainly teams in Overwatch where things were going badly for them, and they just swap things regardless if it makes sense or not. There's basically two schools of thought. This isn't working, let us change something. Or it's, we have practiced this composition, we will play as we practice, and whether or not it's the right decision or not to change, it depends. Hindsight is always 20/20.
Exactly.
Right now, it looks like LNL definitely favoring the dive. Grizzlies, they've got their set compositions that they want to run. Is it working to their favor? Not quite yet. Numbani, they have to have something up their sleeves here. Maybe we see the Pharah coming out once again.
Pharah could definitely come out on first point Numbani. It's very interesting, of course, where if you can take first point with an early Pharah attack or just something that catches him off guard, Numbani is a momentum-based map, whereas you go into the second stage, it's very difficult to really mount a defense there. It's one of the least held defense areas in the game, but then you usually have to swap up when you get into third, where you get in the third point Numbani, suddenly the tables turn, and it's more in the defense's favor. But I'm curious to see what you see. Don't forget, too, that with teams wanting to run Sombra and being more experimental, Numbani is the lab of Overwatch, the one map where teams are more willing to try crazy stuff. I mean, hey, XL2 plays later today. That's where Mangachu would be like, I played Torbjorn.
Well, with Hollywood in the map pool for this, I honestly would have expected them to take it to Hollywood with how much they've actually been running the Sombra so far. I mean, they picked it 3 points out of 3 on Nepal just beforehand. We've seen back in Overwatch history that Sombra was run pretty prevalently on point A, on offense and on defense, and then also in a very Korean style on the second phase of Hollywood 2. So I'm surprised that they're not taking it there.
Again, it also, though, depends, like, are they running Sombra because they have fully thought this out, or are they running Sombra because sometimes people attribute too much to pro players, is kind of what I'm getting at here. They go, these guys are playing 5D chess all the time. That's not always the case. Oftentimes, for players, it's like, this is overpowered. Let's just play this. Yeah. Let's go.
This is OP. This is what I'm comfortable with. Let's just do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have... I guess we have a couple more seconds just before we get into game. What are your thoughts on, as far as the team comps? I know you've already kind of mentioned it, the team comps that they have been running. What do you think that they would need to change? Well, actually, game's up, so let's go for it.
Well, to answer that question as we get into game,
yeah.
If they're going to change one thing here, I would say, look, Sombra might be OP from what you're saying in your internal team compositions, but you just had hard evidence in the form of an L saying, wait, maybe go back to older compositions that you're used to because you're not quite running this as effectively as you might want.
Sombra might be strong now, but Diva's been strong for a year. So I think it's pretty good to have it in your composition. It is going to be the Grizzlies on the defense here. They are down 1-0 up against last night's leftovers. Looks like, hey, they're hovering over it. 10 seconds left. Zapri is going to be on that Sombra.
Oh, Zapri's starting out with the defensive Sombra. So the Grizzlies have made their statement here. They have brought Diva back into the fold. They're not going to do any craziness in benching everyone's favorite Korean mech pilot, who may or may not need to be nerfed. She certainly advocates being nerfed repeatedly.
Nerf this, yes, but we're just seeing the Pharah composition here coming out from last night's leftovers now, just peppering away, trying to force them off the high ground.
Reach right now, taking his time, and this is where you go for early poke. Then when you get an advantage, you dive in. Meanwhile, Enlar in the back found Blam early on. Don't forget, he's probably playing on EU ping right now. He's a Russian tracer. I haven't seen him forever since the Tornado Rocks days, but Blam going to be brought back up into the play. Grizzlies starting to re-solidify here, and the leftovers might consider resetting, but Reach is still in here, so it's still winnable. It's back and forth. And never forget, Jamerson, this is one of the few points of the game where it's almost equidistant between the offense and defense. Both sides can go for a long time.
Indeed, but that Pharah has fallen, and Lair is going to have to back off now. A minute burned off the clock of last night's leftovers. So even though the Grizzlies were forced out of position and they had the great counter dive there, when the Winston and the Diva came in, of course, it's just tried and true defense on Numbani, just counter dive those tank lines.
Well, we do have a swap up coming up here. Reach has gone off Pharah, now going to the 76. This is where their goal is going to be to get into the high ground and hold it, where they're splitting up a little bit, though. You have Dummy and Reach tag team here to the left. Their goal is to get Reach over the top. Meanwhile, the defense holding back. Zapri has the EMP, moving back forward, drops the EMP right in the tank line, and this is where the counter dive begins for the Grizzlies. Trying to mow down the tanks in that moment of opportunity. They're going to bring up a Winston of their own from Dahoon, and they force out the D-Mech, or at least force Fragmenter to drop the self-destruct.
Oh.
He's going to be able to get back into the mech, though, and the offense, powered by the Soldier, being pretty effective for the leftovers.
Yeah, they lost that Mercy, and from here, it is all just grinding away, but Spirit is trying his best. High ground Soldier just proving to be too much for him. And with that, it is going to be the last night's leftovers to take point A.
They're going to end up taking that there, and it's a little bit unfortunate for the Grizzlies where they land the EMP, but they didn't quite get the follow through they were looking for there, Jamerson.
Indeed, that's the thing, right? You do have these multiple elevations for the teams to really use, and at that point when you're forced back that far, your team's not able to capitalize. Spirit, we saw he was almost all the way back at spawn and trying to get the shots off.
Was indeed. The Grizzlies now going to be resetting here on the defense. And remember, defending here on point B is fairly difficult for any team here in Numbani. Usually you want to try and be further up than where the Grizzlies are now. They died decisively, so they couldn't really do that. Now they're going to dive in, but you look at how much pressure Gwen Winston early on. It forced out the Primal Rage to begin with. Spirit, though, got caught off in the back, so the leftovers working on a man advantage. Can be brought back up by Dahoon. He's invested the Valkyrie. The Grizzlies are all in here on the support side of things, and it's going to pay off. They're going to force the leftovers back, and they'll be able to keep this high up defensive position.
They did have to commit both of their support ultimates into that Blam, popping the Transcendence just to make sure Dahoon could actually get the Resurrection off and bring Spirit back into this, but it was enough, and with that pick off onto Enlayer, they're going to stagger them just a little bit more.
All right, the Grizzlies finding their ferociousness here, if anything else, and more importantly, the bought time for Zapri to have an EMP in this next fight, and that can continue to delay things.
Indeed, it's easy to force teams to conserve their ultimates with that EMP. Now, there it is, hack into the back line. Reach is trying to find the kill onto Zapri, but Pag is there to help him out.
Well, again, you just use that as your delete Zenyatta bun, right? Where if you hit a few other people at the same time, even better. Grizzlies, again, going to be buying themselves more time here, but their time might be heading up. Next fight is going to be very much in the advantage of the Leftovers.
Leftovers moving into this next fight. They got both support ultimates along with that self-destruct. Now, Grizzlies struggling to find any kind of power into this next fight.
They're coming off the left flank. It's a little bit sneaky from them. They have all the tools they need to engage. They open with the barrier, diving in. The Grizzlies unable to get away in time. Spirit first to fall here, and the Leftovers off that sneaky left flank. Pulse bomb in, did not connect on the Dahoon, but even with the res, it's just not enough. You've lost too many people. You're only bringing up one there, and the Leftovers well on their way to getting to the final area on second.
I mean, so far we've seen very aggressive support ultimates coming out from both sides there. Last night's Leftovers, though, not afraid at all to use that into their dive, and it did come out. I mean, it's great to see out of last night's Leftovers their focus. They're focusing down Spirit so much in these fights. He's having difficulty just getting any damage off at all.
The Grizzlies are going to decide to fight for this here. Early Transcendence force that time. Oh no, they don't get on the point! It doesn't matter anymore. The Grizzlies had a chance to maybe hold there, but nope, they're backing out in full. Upside for them, Jamerson, they didn't have to burn too much ult-wise there. They were able to save the Transcendence.
Yeah, it was a split-second mistiming there. They were just trying to force out anything, try to burn off as much time off the LNL's clock. But now, Reach, he's got the tactical visor, and he's keeping his wits about him. Zapri has to instantly translocate out.
And Grizzlies, they're going to open up here at the self-destruct. It's a highly offensive self-destruct, trying to get an early pickoff. Doesn't happen. Ajax, though, caught up by Spirit. Meanwhile, Reach in the back. Going to use attack visor here. Backed up by Fried Wiener, moving his way in. But they're not able to get too much off that. He didn't really have the targets in his sights, despite what he might have said. However, Dahoon is down, and last night's Leftovers still poking, but they're not making a lot of progress at the same time.
No, you lose D-Cod there. There's no way to bring him back into this fight, and so now they're just peppering away, trying to poke at them. They do have good information, Zapri, right now on the top. So last night's Leftovers, they've got to keep Dummy protected.
Zapri, he's already going to the back, and you're right. He is a heat-seeking missile for Dummy. Dummy is marked for death right now. There's the EMP, and down goes Dummy. Absolutely nothing he could do to avoid that, and the Grizzlies going to be mauling the Leftovers here, throwing them back once more. 2 minutes remaining, last point in the bottom.
2 minutes remaining, but they did also use the Valkyrie into that last fight. I'm not quite sure why. That might have been overcommittal on the Grizzlies side, so it can be punished as last night's Leftovers. They're coming up on their support ultimates, and we've seen how proactive they are in their engagements and the usage of their support ultimates.
So the Grizzlies have shown that they're fine with using D.Va self-destructs mostly as an offensive tool rather than a remech tool. It is a stylistic difference. So their main way of winning this next fight is you throw the self-destruct in and you get someone here before the support ults really take effect. Grizzlies now under fire, so if there's going to be a big self-destruct, it has to come down. Leftovers still moving forward. They're going to drop the beat. They are fully committing here, and now Grace lobs self-destruct up. That's high noon. The Deadeye takes down 2. Explosions and Deadeye going to even things up for the Grizzlies, and that is a disaster for the Leftovers, who invested so much.
Yeah, we've been seeing time and again on these engagements, D-Cod and Enlayer are actually trying to dive onto Spirit. This time it was just Enlayer by himself, but he lost track of Spirits, and then instead try to redirect his focus onto Dahoon without taking out Spirit. Well, you end up landing a 2-man Deadeye.
Look, this is the point where the Leftovers have gone stale in the fridge and just physically hurt you, because now, with both support ults gone, they've lost their trump card to get back in here. Now Reach is going to have to go for the sneaky flank on the side, perhaps, just something to turn the tables. The Grizzlies, though, if they just dive in with Transcendence, they're going to have an enormous advantage here. Zapri moving in, drops the EMP, sets the table, and Blam even gets to save the Transcendence here. Excellent ultimate economy, a good engage, and we're down to the final 16.
And this is going to be a strong defense for the Grizzlies. They've got the Transcendence. They've got, of course, the Valkyrie. Now they're hunting down Brad Wiener. Dahoon, excuse me, Ajax is trying his best to keep him alive now.
Trying his best now. We're down to 3 seconds. Someone has to get on this point. 1 second, and Yes, they do get there just in time. It's the Valkyrie, Dahoon, taking to the skies to move in, and it's actually working out. Healing the team from above, keeping the tank line alive, and now, if you look at what's going on here, Grizzlies going to end up holding the end. Oof.
We've seen on Numbani, that third stretch is just so difficult to push sometimes, and last night's Leftovers, they were having a really difficult time of trying to dive onto the back line of the Grizzlies, and that's because, well, you have so much distance that you have to cross. Of course, you could try and take that flank. We saw that coming out from end layer, but it's also very difficult because of the corners for someone like Winston to try and leap in, for someone like D.Va to try and leap in and help out the Tracer during that dive.
All right, last night's Leftovers now going to the defense on their own. But I'm curious here to see if the Grizzlies continue to stick with the Sombra no matter what, which again is to a degree telling on their just viewpoint on the game right now. But right now they are still in flux. What we can look at here is the defense from Leftovers, and this is about as standard gets with one swap up here. It is well known that Dummy likes playing Ana. He's going to be playing Ana here, Jamerson. Why would you see an Ana here on first point Numbani?
First point Numbani, I mean, the spawn distances can be a little bit difficult, so you just want that finishing power, especially when you're going to have someone like Reach on Soldier 76, or you can even throw it onto D-Cod. It's a very potent combination, especially because teams do tend to clump up here on Numbani, either trying to jump onto the high ground or stay onto the point. And so that Winston cleave damage, when it's amplified with that nano boost, it is huge.
Well, one thing that I think is also pretty good about the Ana in this situation as well, and you see it on things like Gibraltar, is that she's able to use the long range more effectively, where you can put her more in the back. She's a pain to dive, and if you do overly dive on her, that creates different issues. So I think that's why teams have been a little bit more willing to run Ana in these longer range situations. But we do see some of the support diversity that has come of the new patch. Interestingly enough, though, it kind of feels like we've been seeing less and less Moira. Back when people in the beginning thought she'd be used all the time.
The Slambulance.
Yep.
Not quite so now. I mean, it is difficult, right? Because D.Va is still there, that defense matrix getting rid of the biotic orb now. So Zafri will be on the Sombra once again, making a beeline towards this Mega and lower. Didn't actually get the hack off.
Not quite. Zafri right now on the right side was keeping an eye out, but now they know Leftovers are coming in from that top left position. Leftovers their way in. Spirit right now, well protected by tanks here on the McCree. Gonna be forcing this dive a little bit back. Leftovers still looking for the opportunity, but Frywiener about to get demeched right now, has to back out and get healed, and that's gonna happen. So they don't lose their D.Va early on. They're able to reset, and they've actually gone all the way back to a degree. It's a very split offense, and Enlar has to get out of trouble.
Yeah, the fact that the D.Va actually survived is huge. Dummy's at 75% towards his first nano boost now. It can go into D-Cod, but that's only if it survives. Blam has taken him out.
D-Cod out here early on. The Grizzlies going in and around right now, getting onto the point. Now, first two ticks going the Grizzlies' way, and Leftovers not going to be able to make this on the defense work the way they want.
Indeed, it was just D-Cod not able to survive there. They built up that nano boost so quickly, as we've seen in Overwatch history, but they weren't able to use it in time. That could have been the little kick they needed to actually hold on to point A, but 5 minutes now the Grizzlies have to make it second.
All right, the Leftovers right now, again, Dummy staying on the Ana. He might be swapping off the Nano Boost. He's going to invest in Nano Boost immediately here. Throws it on the D-Cod, who ends up getting bombed. Nano Booster, no! That could not have gone any worse for the Leftovers, as the Grizzlies going to power on through. And now we'll just see here, Dummy, or you get swap off the Ana. Odds are high, we see this.
More than likely, yeah, they need to deal with the tank line here. They need to be able to bust through both the D.Va and that Orisa now. So, of course, the swap off does come out. He had already reset his ultimate anyhow, but it's the Grizzlies on the offensive that have, of course, the ultimate advantage. 3 of their members currently on fire now.
3 members on fire. Grizzlies keeping the payload moving forward. Actually, an impromptu pirate ship with the Orisa being set up here. Meanwhile, we look at Enlar. Pulse bomb ready. Look at the Deadeye just zoning. It's actually not letting Leftovers get the engagement they want early on. They were delayed a little bit. Enlar doesn't land the pulse bomb, and the Grizzlies back up. Using the Orisa shield, they punish Ajax, and now they move forward. Spirit, plenty of protection and room to work with right now. Enlar not able to get too much done immediately, and as a result, the Grizzlies just going to power their way on through. Excellent protection for Spirit.
Yeah, excellent protection for Spirit, but also excellent protection for Blam, who had actually popped off in that last fight because he did have the pocket of that Mercy. I mean, we're seeing why that's such a potent combination. If the Zenyatta gets dove, Mercy just pockets him that entire time. He does not die. You need to make a very strong concerted effort to try and take him out at that point. And also, he receives that damage boost. He's just hitting headshots. Blam is doing so much for his team right now.
Well, right now they're almost to the yellow box of victory, moving it forward. Blam going to be looking to open up the Transcendence here. They can drop the bongos right on top of the Supercharger. Supercharger going to be opened up. It's taken down immediately, though. It's not quite the engage the Grizzlies looking for, but Deadeye in the back. Spirit connects again. Finds Dummy early on. Grizzlies in a great position here, on the winning edge, able to move forward, and the leftovers running out of time to really delay this, but they can't back out, Jamerson. There is no reset here. If they lose this fight entirely, that's going to be it, but very little left for them to actually fight with.
They can't leave the point at all, and so you're seeing them desperately try to cling on. We'll see if anyone can jump in. Reinhardt charged. He's going to be able to make it, but barely in time. Decon gets taken out, and with that, we'll be able to complete out the map.
Grizzlies going to be taking the map, and again, a little bit back and forth, and it is interesting to see just what strategies are coming out here.
Again, I mean, we started the show off talking about the hero pools of these teams and the compositions that we're going to be seeing. We've been seeing so many different facets of their playstyle so far, and I'm already excited. Right now, it is all tied up 1-1, so I mean, we still have 2 more maps to figure out where this all goes.
I have been most interested in seeing the use of like such aggressive support, where, like you were saying, like a lot of people haven't been playing Moira, which I also find interesting because she can be used so aggressively in the games. But even using Zenyatta the way that people are, it's like being a casual. Like, I don't ever think about it until I watch pro players. Or pro hopefuls, and it's fascinating.
Well, the one way people are using Zenyatta as well versus Sombra, which is to see Sombra wave and then die. So you've also got that aspect of Zenyatta that was going on as well, where that is one upside if you could run the Sombra comp, is that it sort of creates a nightmare for a team that wants to stick with Zen. And the thing is, Zen still brings enough that teams will still stick with it even when you're facing that over and over again, much likely to the displeasure of whoever's stuck on Zenyatta.
Yeah, but, you know, the Zenyatas didn't have to worry as much. I mean, when you're running that Mercy composition, like we had mentioned earlier on, you just get that pocket. Even though your shields are gone, she could just keep you alive. So it's not as strong to try and run that Sombra up against just the Zenyatta.
All right, so right now, both teams tied up 1-1. And again, this is sort of interesting because, again, these are teams that haven't really been known to the public, thrown together over the last few months. And we're starting to get an idea of what these teams can really show us.
We've got a really cool replay for you. This is Spirit on McCree. Let me see. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Well, I mean, it was an excellent play right there. We saw the Winston diving in, and then the D.Va just boops him out of the air. That's the great thing about a D.Va. She doesn't actually get dislodged from her jump. The Winston does, and so he's not able to get onto Spirit, and Spirit is just all the space in the world to be able to click heads.
And the key note there is space, right? Where if you're going to be running a McCree, he is one of the most diveable targets in the game, where there's sort of a counterfactual there, where even though McCree is good at controlling space in the back line, good at impeding heroes that would dive on him, you throw too many heroes at him at once, and he doesn't have the ability to get out of trouble. So what you need to make a McCree composition like that work is the tank support that Spirit was getting there between the Orisa and the D.Va over the course of the game, where you just have to be prepared to back him up and hope, okay, please land your shots while we are putting our bodies and abilities in the way for you.
Absolutely.
He did. And we even saw some great Deadeyes coming out from him, too.
Well, that is it. We have 1-1 right now. We're going to go ahead and go to break, but when we come back, we are going to get back into the action right off the bat. We'll see you soon.